Hello Facebook fans, Drew here with Above Alaska Aviation, giving you a rundown on our current status of the Alaska Airmen's Association raffle plane that will be raffled off here in May. I want to give you a rundown of kind of some cool details that we're working on. One of the new things we're trying out this year is Kydex interior panels, which is like a, I believe it's PVC, it's a plastic proprietary deal. There's 3 rolls here. 4x8, and these were heavily discounted from CAC Plastics in Wasilla, and they can get pretty much any color you want. The cool stuff about this is we've been experimenting with kind of molding it, and simply a heat gun and a vacuum box, and you can get compound curves. Got a little bit of finessing to learn, but it's also really easy to trim with sheet metal shears. You can cut it with a die grinder, you can break it in a sheet metal break, you can shear it in a sheet metal shear. It's really a versatile, fun thing to work with. So all of the interior panels will be made out of that, and you can see we're starting that process with the templates we have in there. We use cardboard and heavy builder's paper to cut out templates. And then once we have those templates all made, we'll lay it out on the actual Kydex and cut and then heat form anything we need to form. The floorboards were the same process, and those are from Carbon Concepts in Wasilla, and they're a foam core carbon fiber, so they're really lightweight. And we do the same thing there. We use cardboard and make templates, and then overlay that onto the carbon fiber, mark it out, and cut it.
Yes, Stephen, if you are a Canadian, you can buy a ticket for the raffle plane. You do not have to be a U.S. citizen to buy raffle plane tickets.
Another cool thing we've got here on this year's plane that we haven't done before is the Dakota Cub Battery Box, which mounts up in here. And being that this is a wide body, we're going to actually have to custom make the boot cowl. Nobody manufactures, to my knowledge, a boot cowl that will fit the wide body. So we'll basically have the firewall, which will be titanium from Atlee Dodge, and that's a stock Cub firewall, and then we're going to have to flare out in order to accommodate the width, the 4 inches extra width. So in that process, once we have the boot cowl built, we're going to create an access panel here with nut plates and a sheet metal cover. And that way the next mechanic, or even the pilot, if he needs to do something with the battery, just take that panel off, boom, it's all right there. Also frees up space underneath the seat where a lot of people have been putting batteries. See, we'll walk around this side. Well, I guess while we're over here, I'll show you what Andrew's been working on back here. So this has got an oversized baggage door. I think we talked about that in the past video, but we have to manufacture that actual door. Same with the upper baggage door. This will all be baggage back in here, and it's pretty nice and wide with that wide body, so there'll be tons of storage space. So the doors are basically cut out of raw sheet metal, and once they get cut to shape, we'll put a safety edge, just a slight bend around the edges of it to give it a little strength and safety. And this is kind of what the finished product will end up looking like. You can see that safety edge on it. And then being that it's so wide, it wants to kind of oil can, so we rivet in a doubler to support that. And of course it gets a hinge so that the whole thing can operate. And then these will be quarter turn fasteners to secure it. And that reinforcing piece for the door is we run it through a roller, which puts a bead in it, so that stiffens that up real good, and then this will get riveted to the back side of the door. And if you come around here, you can see some of the internal workings. One of the many modifications to this that we're doing is a headerless fuel system. Ordinarily on a Super Cub there'll be a header tank here, which I think is about a gallon, and there's another one in the back. And the reason for that is that in certain flight attitudes, the engine could get starved of fuel because there's really only 3 outlets on the fuel system. So this puts in a 4th outlet so that you actually have an outlet forward and aft on both sides of on your fuel system. So both wings have 2 outlets, and they all come together. And that headerless system is donated by Cub Crafters. So thanks to them for that. And then the fuel selector valve is Dakota Cub, and basically all those outlets from the tanks come together here, and on the other side there will be a little handle that the pilot rotates, and this also adds, normally a Cub came with left, right, and off, and this adds a both, so the pilot can elect to just run off of both fuel tanks. You can see the flap system, which will ultimately come down to the handle here, and that cable runs up and back out to the wings and operates the flaps. And then you've got the trim system here, similar to the fuel selector. There's a handle on the inside of that interior panel where the pilot would crank, and all those wires go around and around and around and adjust your horizontal stabilizer for pitch trim. We started some of the wiring for the tail LED lights, and we've got the stringers on to help form the shape of the fuselage. All the glass is actually on its way here now, should be here the next day or so, and that's going to be the whole L21 greenhouse and skylight and door glass and all of that. And the trim back here, those cables I showed you up there, they come back here and they spin these pulleys, which runs this jack screw up and down, which attaches to the leading edge of your horizontal, which causes your pitch to change. The jack screw, or the old jack screw system back here, is also donated by Dakota Cub, and one of the main advantages to theirs is they have a tighter winding in the jack screw, so there's more room for fine-tune adjustment from the pilot, and it also it seems to make this a lot more solid than the stock jack screw. There's not a lot of side-to-side play in that.
Chad says he's building a J3 and he's getting close to spraying.
Ooh, nice. A little further along than us.
Mm-hmm.
Although our wings are done, which are over here. They are all through paint. You've got Juno white, and I believe it's polar gray for stripe, and then insignia blue. And the wings are pretty much stock. Most of it is, I shouldn't say stock, but they're, as far as modifications, most of the internals of the wings are Dakota Cubs, their ribs and spars and whatnot. We've added the crosswind stole leading edge cuff, which you can see, we showed you this before, it was through paint, but this is the actual additional leading edge that continues all the way down. And with that modification, it gets stall fences, which are here, and once this gets painted, it's going to go on the wing above a rib, a little further down between where the flaps and the ailerons meet, and this helps keep the airflow going straight across the chord of the wing instead of washing out the tip, so you get a little bit better lift with that. And then it also adds this little wing tip fence, which essentially plugs into that hole I showed you there, and then of course that needs to get painted before we put that on, and that has been proven, I suppose, by Charlie Center at Crosswind Stole to add additional performance. So yeah, the wings are pretty much done. We're going to be putting vortex generators on it once we get to the point where we've got everything painted and ready to install that stuff. It'll also be getting the Whalen LED wingtip nav lights and strobe lights, and then of course the infamous P-Stole double slotted Fowler flaps from Airframes will go on there, and then the 24-gallon Dakota Cub tanks that were sponsored by and there's so many sponsors, it's hard to keep track of them all. That one is Sky Air Parts out of Wolf Lake in Wasilla. yeah, so that's about where we're at. Engine is done at Western Skyways, and it's waiting for a couple of accessories before they can test run it. And then it'll be on its way up here, and that is going to be a 180 horsepower engine. And the STC for that was from Cub Crafters. And we're also putting the Hartzell Trailblazer prop on this year, which is a constant speed composite prop. So this should be a very high performing Super Cub. So yeah, that's about what we got for you today, and we'll tune in a week or so and show you the more progress. Hopefully it'll be substantial. So we will talk to you next time. Thanks for tuning in.